What's up, everyone? Welcome down to another episode of Zetro's Toxic Vault, and we are going to be getting violent today in Zetro's Toxic Vault because from Violence, I have the lead singer, motherfucking Sean Killian.
What's up,
How are
Seth?
you? Good to have you in.
It's always great
and it's
to see
good
you.
to have you in, and we'll talk about that. So,
Thanks.
how's everything going? I mean, it's been kind of like out of the blue. We kind of came up, and nobody expected this at all. Nobody expected this, and you guys came out of the blue, especially after what you had gone through, in health wise, and and again, to do this type of stuff, it really takes a lot out of you. People don't know, and as we get older, it's tougher. So, how did this come back about? Because we know that Phil was leaving Machine Head at a certain time, and the timing kind of worked. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, Dana, my wife, after my surgery, when I woke up, she, I told her, well, I want you to post this, and that I would do a show, not a violent show necessarily, but I wanted to get back on stage.
Right.
And this was like so I went into surgery Monday. I woke up Tuesday night, and then I saw Phil had left Machine Head. Then he went to play for Slayer. And I was driving home from work one day, and I was just like,
so you'd gone back to work already. You were like, you were on recovery, and you were going back to work.
I was out for 6 months recovering,
and everything went well with that. Then, right?
There was a couple complications. There was a couple bumps in the road,
but we're cool now.
Here I am.
I love that because you look great, dude. I'm gonna tell you,
I've been getting my weight back.
Yeah, I can tell, and that's great. Because when we did the concert last year, you were still kind of.
I was in bad shape.
Yeah, you were not doing that well that night. So if you were going to tell me, and I'm just, to be honest, if there was going to be a Violence reunion in the next year with you, I would have probably bet against it at that point, just because of how I saw you, and not that it wasn't something we wanted, but it seems like it was only that time, maybe a year later, and you were ready to go. So continue on. How did it come?
So when I had seen that he did the Slayer thing, and I knew that he was going to be active, and I figured, well, I want to do this again, give it a shot. And so I just sent him a text, thinking to myself, it's now or never, because if I don't do it now, he might get a gig, and then I'll never get a chance for he and I to get back together and put this stuff out there on stage. And so I just sent him a text saying, hey, it was January, and January of 2019, and my surgery was March 26th of 2018.
We're only in July, so basically, it's like it's about maybe 17 months from your surgery, and then all the recovery time, and then 7 months since, and you guys have. What it was like? I think was it in April. The first, the reunion, that came back,
April 13th.
But what did the conversation with you and Phil go like?
I sent him a text, and then he responded, "What do you mean, like go to a movie?" Well, no, do a show like
like a movie. You want to go to? You want to do a show? Go to
just
what's
hang
playing?
Out. Yeah, exactly. So then he texts back in capital letters with question marks of Violence. I said, yeah. So I was on the highway breaking California law at the time, but texting and driving, but. When I got home, I just said, hey, I'll call you when I get home. So I gave him a call and said, yeah, I want to do this. And, I think it's something that I'm ready for. We can book it like in April or May. It'll be another 4 months of me recovering. And I should be fine by then. And it's just something I really wanted to do.
Now, was it like, I think I can do this, or that the recovery was going really good and it's like, I'm determined to do this,
For me,
yes.
I've always been, my mindset is, if I'm going to say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Good for you.
I'm not going to, when I was.
Man of your word. There's nothing wrong with that, brother.
It was like, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get healed. Something's going to happen.
Right.
Things are going to go my way. And
because there was a time when we were like, you needed a transplant, and a lot of us were, reaching out. I know there was a lot of fans, and, all the love to you people that were sending Sean, like saying, I'll give you mine.
Yeah. There was
Dude,
a lot.
what was that like?
It was interesting because to be able to get a living donor transplant, you have to be on the list of getting a transplant. So once I got on the list, then the living donor program opens up.
Uh-huh.
And you're allowed to see, okay, and no one had submitted to do it. And I sent Dana a text. I says, I just hung up with the hospital, and they said nobody submitted you posted this, and we put the application out, but nobody's filled out an application. They have nobody on record of wanting to do this living donor, potentially do this living donor transplant. 3 people actually did, but none of them qualified because of their body mass index or one thing or the other.
Blood type, smoke. Right. Yeah, they can't give you a pickled one, you know what I mean?
Exactly. no pickled.
Right.
So then I was kind of like, wow, this is kind of a bummer. And then Dana put it back out there. She sent out the application, said, if there's any questions, filling it out, get a hold of us. And next thing you know, a lot of people started filling out. One guy actually was a match. He was in Michigan.
Really?
And there's people from all over the place that were, doing, it was a simple blood test to see if they would be a match.
So did you finally get somebody?
Yeah. So we're hanging out at home, and, I was at the time very miserable. I mean, it was really debilitating.
Uh-huh.
So we get a text from her brother. Hey, I'm a match. So we didn't even know he filled out an application.
No way.
Yeah. We didn't know he submitted. So he sent us this message saying I'm a match. And, we called him and going, you're a match. Well, so what does that mean? And he says, well, I filled out the application. I did the blood draw, and it came back that I was a match. So, I can do this. Now,
wow.
That's the beginning of the process. It's a long process because there's all kinds of tests. Every test that they ran on me, they had to run on him too. Cardio, stress test, pulmonary function tests, all kinds of tests. And so he was going through he started the process of going through all those tests. And at the same time, we got another text from Beth Reisner saying, I'm a match. And and my surgeon who had spoken to said usually the insurance companies they'll test one person at a time. They'll make up one at a time.
Uh-huh.
But thank God I have good health insurance. And so they were actually running tests on both of them at the same time.
Really?
Yeah. So here I was with my brother-in-law and my old girlfriend
from
back in the day.
But Beth's been she's a part of our scene, you know what I mean? She's definitely
a big part of my life.
Definitely, and a lot of people don't
good
know
and
her.
Bad.
But regardless, and I still see her.
Yeah,
I still see her all the time. I've seen her at the Death Angel record release.
Yeah, she called me on my birthday Sunday.
Amazing,
wish me happy birthday. But
that's the kind of people you got around you, bro.
Yeah, so they were testing her at the same time they were testing Kevin, my brother-in-law, Kevin Rivero, and it just got to the point where they had to make a choice, and Kevin, being a lifelong Air Force officer, and
clean living is what you're
living.
saying. Clean living is what you're saying, Sean.
Clean living.
Probably some beers on the weekend, but other than that, they didn't delve in us rock and roll life, guys.
No, not at all. And she was fine because Beth has been clean for a long time. But when they came down to it, they said,
that's probably better with the brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, long story short, if I never married Dana, I may not have had a living donor.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's her brother.
So what's the process for him? Do you guys both go in the hospital at the same time? So talk about that.
Like I said, he went through multiple tests. He had to wear a cardio test, this device that he wore for like 2 weeks, and they were tracking his heart rate and all that. And then after that, we both showed up at the hospital the same day. He went into, they woke us up at about 6 a.m. He was in the room down the hall from me. They took us both down at the same time. And, they took him in at about 7:30 after they prepped him. They removed 63% of his liver.
So they don't take the whole thing?
No, just his right lobe. And then at 9 a.m., they rolled me into surgery. And what's crazy is our surgeons, Dr. John Roberts, my surgeon, and his wife, Dr. Oh, man. Anyway, it'll come to me.
That's okay. You can give him props through this whole thing. It's all right.
She removes the portion from him And then her husband, Dr. Roberts, removes my liver completely and puts his 63% into me and connects all the veins, all the bile ducts. So Kevin went in at 7:30. He got out about 11:30. I went in at 9 a.m. I got out of surgery at about 7:45 p.m.
Wow.
They woke me up the next evening at about 7:45 p.m.
Wow. So you're literally out for like almost 3 days, really.
Yeah,
really.
so they wanted to take all the oxygen tubes.
Right,
So
sure.
they wanted to make sure I could breathe on my own and all that stuff before they woke me up. And
how many doctors in the room at the time of the surgery, Sean? Do you
know?
I mean, what's the team like?
It's probably, well, when I first went into UCSF, the testing started, and you have cardiac surgeons, you've got all these different gastroenterologists, blood people, and you have social workers, you have occupational hazard folks, and
Really?
oh, it's a big team.
Wow.
About 15 people, and about 10 of those are doctors, and the rest are kind of just finance people,
support,
social
you know
worker.
what I mean? So right,
Yeah.
right, and all the intangibles.
And you know, I got into the hospital. I was in the emergency room in Sutter Hospital in Sacramento. They wanted to do a procedure on me, and so I called UCSF, knowing that they were trying to get me in there, and said, "Well, I'm in the hospital, and these guys want to do this operation on me, and I'm wondering if this is something that I should allow them to do." And the person at the transplant clinic said, "Well, you're in the hospital. Well, we're going to have you transferred here, because then we don't have and just admitted here, and we're going to start the tests now because we're waiting for your insurance company to approve all this stuff, and it's been 3 weeks." So at 10:30 at night, they put me in an ambulance, took me to UCSF from Sacramento. I got there at about probably 12:30, 1 o'clock at night. Answered 50 million questions. They took 18 vials of blood out of me.
Damn.
They had to take them half from one arm, half from the other.
Wow.
Fell asleep at about 3 a.m., got woke up at 7 a.m., and it was about 12 hours of testing, from ultrasounds to CT scans to MRIs to blood work. It was a lot.
Wow.
And
you're already sick, so you're not feeling good, so it's
yeah.
taxing on
I'm
you.
horribly sick,
as it
yeah.
is.
Yeah. And
Did you think this process was never going to end? I mean,
for me, because I had changed insurance halfway, like I was diagnosed and I'd started seeing some doctors and went to UCS or to San Francisco Sutter. They don't do living donor, they just do straight transplants.
okay.
And then my insurance changed, so I could no longer go to Sutter. I had to go to UCSF, who does living transplants, so I kind of read up on their website and researched it a little bit. So after all the tests, and it was probably about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I asked the guy, "Well, am I eligible for, do you think I could get this living donor thing so I don't have to wait on a list?" Because the country's broken up into regions, and our region is California, Nevada, Arizona. Okay, so each region gets the same amount of livers.
I see.
From the facility
From
out of Tennessee.
that dones to.
Yeah. So there's a place in Tennessee. They decide what livers go where and to whom.
And how's that? Do we know how that decision is
It's
made?
based on,
Support, like need. This guy's going to
you
die.
have
and
what
he's
they
gotta
call a
have it?
MELD, MELD score, MELD score, and it's a compilation of. You have to do random screenings. They call you, and you have to go down and piss in a cup that same day. So it's based on those results, blood work, if you're doing your diet the way you're supposed to, because you're only allowed 2 grams of sodium a day and 1.5 liters of fluid a day.
Really?
Period. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty brutal. So
yeah, it's way
you
brutal.
go along those lines, your blood work has a lot to do with it. And so based on all that information, you have a MELD score. So a bad MELD score is about 41. And I was hovering about 15 to 22. So I was in decent shape, which meant, okay, he can do a living donor because he's healthy enough to.
Right. He can, his body will take it.
Yeah, his body will take it.
Amazing.
And actually they push that now. They prefer you get a living donor if you're on the list to get a liver transplant.
Why is that, Sean?
Because California, I think it was 2016, they had, I think it was like, I want to say it was like 900 people on the transplant list just for California. And remember, we're connected to Nevada and Phoenix and Arizona.
Wow.
And they only received about 200 livers for transplants. And so it's a lot of those people pass away waiting.
So it's grave. It's very grave for some people.
Yeah.
Then.
And so the decision from the transplant facility in Tennessee is based on your MELD score and when you got on the list. So if you're really sick, you start moving up the list.
I see.
You know, and then blood type. So I'm type O positive, and type O negative are pretty popular. So when it comes to real liver transplants, most of the people are type O positive or negative. So if you have a rare blood type, you have a better chance of getting a liver than you do if you're type O positive or negative, because there's more people that want those livers.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And so I was like, well, I'm from the get-go, when I read that part of their website about living donor, I was like, well, that's the way I want to go. I don't want to be waiting until I'm,
right, till it's
on death's
too long.
door.
Sure.
And maybe I'll get a liver, maybe I won't, And so that's kind of the way we approached it. Went through all that testing. What's funny is they transported me from Sacramento to UCSF, and they said, okay, well, it's a Friday, we're done with the testing, so we're gonna boot you out of here
Really?
at 5 o'clock. And I'm all, oh, so I'll have transportation to go back to Sacramento? They're like, no.
We'll take an Uber?
We're just gonna kick you out the freaking door.
No way.
So I had to call my aunt and uncle who live out in Livermore here, and they ran out there and got me and took me back to Sacramento.
Oh my.
Yeah, but I was kind of like, oh,
The
that's
system.
queer.
It's Friday. We're off.
Yeah.
Beer 30 right now. You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
Sorry.
Exactly. Get the hell out.
Wow.
But yeah, it was an interesting process. And when you're that sick, you really learn a lot about
I would think so.
the medical. Like sometimes I would go into different procedures, and I would know more than the doctors, especially the residents. They would have to do a procedure on me. I had to go in every Friday to get what they call a paracentesis. So when your liver is cirrhotic, like mine was, nothing can pass through it.
Really?
Yeah. So what happens is, between the blood that goes from your spleen through your liver to get filtered, and then up to your artery to your heart to get pumped back through your body, it can't get through the liver. So that vein between the spleen and the liver starts excreting, taking the sodium and the proteins and all that, and excreting them as a fluid into your abdomen, which is called ascites. Every Friday they would take anywhere between 10 and 12 liters out.
Holy shit.
Out of my abdomen. Yeah. Every
Really?
Friday. Every Friday.
And it built up all week long.
Oh yeah, it was horrible.
And was it painful to have it?
It was painful, uncomfortable. I mean, I was like bloated. You can
Really?
imagine 12 liters of fluid in your
Damn.
abdomen. And on top of that, your liver, your body still requires protein to convert into sugars. So if your liver can't process proteins, what happens is it starts taking it from your muscles.
Right.
And so you start, that's why your face gets sunken in. You start losing all your muscle in your arms, your legs. I had no abdominal muscles at all.
Really?
Yeah. And those
But you were like bloated. Wow, real
bloated like a pregnant.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and it was horrible. So then, I was still working because I'm the only one that supports our family, and
Right.
I need my insurance to stay active.
Sure.
Right. So I'm going to work every day. My surgery was on a Monday. I worked right up to that Friday.
There wasn't any disability that was possible for that.
Yeah,
huh?
but the family, the mortgage, and the kids.
I get
the
it.
boys playing hockey, the girls dancing.
I understand. I had once I had little kids once.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Oh, I do know.
my the owner of my company yesterday gave me a good line. Oh, kids, yeah, they're the gift that keeps on taking.
The gift that keeps on. Yeah. Actually, I've been fortunate enough. Mine aren't. I've got good ones.
Yeah.
Not one of them. Not. I've got 3, and the 3 are.
Yeah.
They're all doing their own
That's
thing,
great.
which is good. So.
My kids are younger, so I'm trying to
Right. Well,
set
that's
them
good.
up so that they have opportunities.
That's good. That's good. Well, Seamus comes to a lot of the shows now. He
does. He's a thrasher.
He's a thrasher. I raised 3. Well, my daughter is one, but they raised 2 thrashers that actually.
They were at
they're
the
doing
first
it.
show.
Yeah, and now it's your turn. You can raise the next level of them up.
Yeah.
So when did you start? like feeling, but I know you went through a couple of setbacks, and then we had talked. When actually did you start feeling good and think that okay, this worked, and everything is maybe I went through a couple of pratfalls downturns here, but they did what they said they were going to do. This is working. I'm on the up and up, and I'm going to be okay. When
so they said, my surgeon said, excuse me, as soon as we get the transplant in you, we know right away that it's working. There's no 2-week time period to go, okay, is it doing something? And they're literally taking my blood twice a day when I was in the hospital for 11 days after the surgery. And then when I was home, so I was in the hospital 11 days, got home on a Monday or something. The Friday after, I started feeling this pain, like I needed to have a bowel movement, and it just wasn't coming, and I was just all day I was kind of miserable. And then they told me, and my wife, of course, you have to have a team of family, people
I'm sure,
to support you, right? Because you can't do anything for yourself.
right, and they know how to get time to give you your meds, all that kind of stuff. Sure, of course.
So they said if your temperature goes over 100.4, you need to go to the emergency room. So that day I was feeling kind of miserable, had a lot of pain right here, and then took my temperature. It was at 101. So my wife ran me to the hospital. I had a bacteria infection because after they did the surgery, they put a tube in me that would drain fluid off of the cut edge of the liver that was put into me. So that tube got clogged. So then bile was leaking into my abdomen and created a bacteria infection. So they had to reopen my incision. Let's see, that was March 26th was my surgery. I was back in there April 12th or 14th. And they had to I went through about 4 days of testing. They were trying to figure out, can we fix it without opening them, but they couldn't figure it out. So they had to reopen my incision. So I was in the hospital for another 11 days.
Wow.
The crazy part about that is before I went into that surgery, the doctor came in, and it wasn't my original surgeon, it was another surgeon, but they're all competent. I mean, these are not 30-year-olds.
Right.
These are guys that have been doing this for a long time. So Dr. Freeze comes in and he says, well, I'm going to have to open you up again. We got to figure this out. And, unfortunately, we have to open the same incision.
Did they know at that time what it was? Or
they did not.
And was there any speculation? Did they speculate what you obviously happened?
They don't really speculate.
They don't speculate.
No, they don't.
They don't say like, okay, well, this happened to a guy before and it could be this, so they just open the incision.
Their speculation is between each other, and then they go, okay, well, let's send him down for this test.
Okay, I see.
So they took me down there to the operating room. Now this time, they're putting an epidural in my back, and I'm like, okay, well, I didn't have that the first time, so I'm kind of wondering why this is going on.
Trying to numb you down, trying to numb the bottom half down.
I wake up, and now I have not just my surgeons and my gastroenterologists and all these other people. Now I have a crew of medical or pain med doctors, pain control doctors, they're called. So they're pumping fentanyl through this thing in my back.
Wow.
And I had control. It would give me a dose every 30 minutes, but I could push the button every 15. I had that. I had 10 milligrams of OxyContin, and I would drink, I think it was like 2.5 milligrams of Dilaudid every 2 hours. So the OxyContin every 4 hours, Dilaudid every 2 hours, and fentanyl pumping through this thing. So,
well, what a party, huh?
Dude,
what a party!
When I went in there, I was in so much pain from this bacteria infection. It was like number 10, and I was in it for about a good 20, 22 hours. Feeling that kind of pain. Going through all these tests. Yeah, it was miserable.
Man.
So now I'm like, oh, okay. We're on top of, they call it, getting on top of the pain. So we're on top of the pain. I'm feeling better. Now to have this stupid epidural, I got to have this monitor thing taped to my finger and a catheter up my schlong. So I'm like, well, I don't want this damn catheter up my schlong anymore. So the pain med doctors come through on their rounds, and they're all, oh, how you feeling? I'm all, well, I'm feeling really good. I think we're on top of the pain, and I don't think I need this epidural anymore, because in my mind, I'm all, get this thing out of my dick.
Right.
So they're all, oh, is that so? Okay. Well, we're not going to pull the epidural out, but we'll turn the medicine off. and see how you do, right? So they turn it takes 2 nurses to turn it off because it's such a, potent stuff that
Right.
it's really monitored. So they turn it off. Maybe 15 minutes later, I'll push a button. Nurse! Turn the fucking thing back on.
Right.
So they come and do their rounds the next day. They're all, oh, you had to turn the fentanyl back on. I'm all, yeah. And I'm figuring you guys probably knew that was going to happen. And they're kind of like, well, everyone takes it differently.
Right. Well, that's what they have to say. That is amazing.
Yeah. So I went through all that and sat on my mom's couch and, I got up and down, did what I had to do. It was very difficult sleeping because I couldn't roll over.
Sure.
My incision goes from here to here.
Oh, my.
Yeah. I have no problem showing it to you if you want to see it.
Okay. Just there's the camera.
So
This is a violent. This is a Zetro's Toxic Vault first.
That's my incision.
Holy shit!
I have another one right here. It's 6 inches long.
Face that way towards that fucking camera.
They opened this twice. So.
Well, I'm glad to see that you're bulking out now. You know what I mean? It looks
I
good.
have to wait to go to my arms and my.
It's all right. It's okay. I'd rather see you in the weight.
Straight to my
Damn.
belly.
So like what? 3,000 stitches to stitch that up?
Staples,
I mean, come on.
And glue. They don't.
Yeah,
use
right.
Stitches.
Yeah, well, because what if they have to reopen it up, right, or
about 80
something?
staples.
Holy shit! Which kind of hurts in itself, right?
You're already in. So
Right,
much
exactly.
pain. It's like,
At this point, what more can you fucking do to me? You know what I mean?
Pull my nails out.
Exactly.
Then I might feel something, but
damn.
So I got back home from that, and I was 134 pounds at that time. Yeah.
Where you've gained back? Are you back?
Last time I weighed myself, I was 176.
Oh, good for you. Good.
Getting back.
That's
there.
all right. With weight comes the strength for sure.
Yeah. So, went through 6 months of rehab, laying on my mom's couch. Then it got to a point where I got to get out of my mom's house. And
Is there therapy, Sean, that you have to go do any type of physical therapy or?
No, because there was nothing. I couldn't use my abdominal muscles at all, so there was really no physical therapy for them to
so it's basically just sit around, heal process, and everything.
Take the meds, and the meds, the anti-rejection medications. One of them is called tacrolimus. It's extremely powerful. And so you spend your first 3 or 4 months I was doing my blood work twice a week. And then they would get a phone call and, okay, we want you to, instead of taking 2 milligrams in the morning and 2 milligrams at night, we want you to cut back to 1.5 milligrams. And then you start that. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, take it down to 1 milligram. Okay, bump it back up to 1.5, And then I have another one called microphenolate, which controls your white blood cell count. And so I was on 1,000 milligrams of that, so 500 in the morning, 500 in the evening. And that one, I got a phone call, well, Sean, your white blood cell count is dangerously low, and we want you to cut back the microphenolate, and we're going to send you this stuff called Neupogen or something like that. It's an injection you put in your stomach, and it makes your bone marrow, because that's where you get your white blood cells.
Sure.
It gets them to start producing more white blood cells. You might have some pains and aches and stuff because it's working inside your bones to get this done. And so I was like, okay. And they're like, well, if you have any kind of a temperature, you need to go to emergency right away because you are highly susceptible to any bacterias or viruses because my white blood cell count was so low. And that's your defense mechanism. But they're trying to manage that white blood cell count into this certain zone so it doesn't start attacking your liver that's not yours, but not so low that you get susceptible to everything, any bacteria or viruses or anything.
What are you on now? Are you taking meds every day now?
Every day I'll be on tacrolimus and microphenolate. So now I take 500 milligrams of microphenolate.
So how many pills a day are we taking?
So I take on a normal day, I take 2, 4, 5, 6, 8 pills a day in the morning and then at night.
Same. So 16 pills.
And then in Wednesdays, I have to take this vitamin D2, which is like 50,000 mics of vitamin D. It's a prescription you can't buy it over the counter.
So 8 pills in the morning, 8 pills at night.
Yeah.
Any type of liquid that you need to put down?
No,
That,
no
you know,
liquid.
there's no medicine that you have to
No.
go down. Like, is there any obviously there's no dialysis or anything at your house,
No.
or there's no machines or
Nope.
anything they have to, so you're all
No.
sealed up.
I have to do blood work once every 2 weeks.
What's the diet like?
I can eat whatever I want now.
Okay, and exercise is encouraged.
Yeah, so it was probably about that that 6th month of rehab, maybe half of the 5th month, the rest of the 6th month, that I started getting up and walking the dog.
Uh-huh.
You know, I was trying to stay mobile as I could,
Right.
but you tire out really fast.
Sure.
You know. So then I started walking the dog a little bit more, and I got up to about 2 miles to 3 miles
Good.
a day walking
That's
the
great.
dog. Yeah. And that's when I knew, okay, well, I got to get back to work because
Right.
I'm done watching TV. I'm done sitting on a couch. I can't do this anymore.